All right, episode 8 of Keeping It Local, talking with John Buckley here about real estate and all things that are going to be important to buyers out there. But John is telling us his real estate story, and I cut him off so we could start recording. Sorry, John. But
No,
go
it's all
ahead.
good.
Tell us. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
No, it's all good. So when we were house hunting, what we did was kind of a little unorthodox, right? Because it didn't necessarily matter where we lived. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like what we did was we put a pinpoint in where we lived, which was Upper East Side of Manhattan, and
Mhm.
we were like, as long as we can get into Manhattan in a decent commute, we just had our first kid. So it was important to like have access to work and be able to get home from work as fast as possible. Like if we needed to, emergencies, babysitting situations, things like that. But it didn't like the town didn't matter to us necessarily. Like, oh, we're going to live in Rockville Center, or we're going to live in where we are now in Weehawken, New Jersey, right? So it was kind of wild because you'd have to almost use 7 different realtors because there's no shot that any realtor is going to know, okay, we're looking at a place in the Bronx, we're looking at a place in Yonkers, we're looking at a place in Jersey, we're looking at Lynbrook and what have you.
Mhm.
um
That must have
and
drove
each
realtors
realtor.
fucking nuts.
What's that?
That must have drove some of the realtors nuts. They were probably so begging to
I'm
get your
sure.
business, like,
I'm sure.
ah.
I'm sure. But the wild part is that like, the I think and I'm sure you see it in your industry a ton, the different like the vig between a great realtor and a lot of the other people that got a real estate license is night and day.
Mhm.
I think like when you see somebody that's on point, they listen to you, they ask the right questions, and then they come with like a bit of a game plan. Because like I'm a huge fan of like, I'll give you like my mom used to make me paint the house all the time, and I am the worst house painter on the planet.
Yeah.
And after painting the kitchen, she would lose her mind because the kitchen looked like crap. And I was like, I don't hire a plumber to do my electric work. Why would you think after painting the house for the last 20 years, and this is just going to be like, the roof of the Sistine Chapel? It's not going to be. So at the end of the day, like, I'm a huge fan of like letting somebody who's good at their job do their job.
Mhm.
And but yeah, the difference between a good realtor coming in with a game plan, coming in with comps, coming in with like, hey, I know you like this house, made me think of this one and this one. Let's go check those out too. It was a whole different ball game. And like we left a lot of meetings like, wow, that person was on point. We left more meetings with like, I'm never calling that person again. And I hope they, you know,
Hey, it's a shame because it is not hard to get licensed. Like it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't require I mean, I personally didn't think any of it was that difficult, like the classes or anything like that. And then you get thrown into your first deal and it's like trial by fire and you learn so much. But yeah, I mean, that is the thing. Like I forget the statistic. It's like 5% of the realtors in like an MLS, like there's 5% that do 80% of the business.
sure.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it, like a lot of them I know, and they're really, really good. Like I know some
Mhm.
really good agents, and like you pull stuff from them because yeah, you see what they do because they treat it like a business, they run it like a business. But again, it's the way they treated you. Like ultimately, that's what you walked away with was how you felt treated, and not just treated well because anyone could be nice and kind and listen to you, but also providing a really high level of service, like providing you comps, providing you alternative options, giving you other ideas that might work for you. That to me is like bottom line. Like that's the first thing everybody should be doing, but not everybody does that. They just think, oh, okay, you want to go see How's It Boom? Let's go see this. Let's go see this. Doesn't the couch look great over there? It's like I don't. I tell people like my sellers, I tell all the time, I'm like buyers have eyes. They're gonna see the pictures. I'm like, this selling your house has nothing to do with like the presentation in here. Like there's certain
Right.
staging things that we could do. Like, yeah, we're gonna move the couch around, make it feel open. But ultimately, it's like all the little things that you want to talk about, like those aren't gonna sell this house. Like
No.
positioning it financially, like positioning the price correctly, and having a marketing plan that actually works for this house, targeting the right people, knowing what we're gonna do. That's what's actually gonna sell your house.
Without a
But
doubt. And also like, I mean, no one like starts a home search, I'm sure, with like, you know, I hope my couch fits in the living room. You know what I mean? It's like, no,
Right.
like, are there playgrounds? Is there a good school district? You know, is it proximity? See, like for us, is like, you know, we've been in the city for like, is there proximity to a park, right? Like I can take a rock and hit the park with the rock. Like if, you know, if my kids are driving me nuts, let's go to the park and burn off some energy. Like these are things that are important to me. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like, and it's not necessarily like a space thing for us, right? Like, you know, like where, you know, some of my friends are like, no, I want, you know, a lot of yard. I want a lot of acreage. Like
Mhm.
me, I hate mowing the lawn or keeping stuff up like that. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I want nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't ask the right questions, and that's any sales gig, right? If you don't ask the proper questions up front to get an idea of what these people are actually, what's important to them, and then really take the process, you know, almost customized to those points, like you
Yeah.
lose,
Yep.
you
And
know.
you're not doing a good job if you're not doing that. Like if you're not
100%.
individualizing everything that each person needs and figuring out, okay, what is best for them. Yeah, like I have a system, like, I have a process. I have every, like, first thing I always make people do is look at closed properties in their price range. Like, and that I was on like a podcast with a very big time mortgage person. And I said that and he was like, wow, like I feel dumb right now. He's like, that's like the simplest, smartest thing I've ever heard. He's like, it's genius. And I've never heard it before. And I just feel stupid. And I'm like, it's just because the mentality is always like, oh, let's go out there and see houses. Yeah, let's go look. Yeah. And we get them excited because that's a way to draw people in and that's a way to get your hooks into them.
Sure.
But that's not really the best thing for someone necessarily, especially in this market. It's like, let's see what you can afford
Right.
before,
Right.
let's see what's
We can go
closed in
to,
your
you know,
price range.
old Brookville and drive around to open houses all day long. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not going to be able to close on that bad boy anyway. So,
Right. And even if your budget's 600,000 and you're looking at houses at 599, you're not getting it.
right.
Like it's over.
Right.
Like you need to be looking at houses that are like 550 because we're still in an over asking market right now and that's the way
Oh
it's
my
going to be.
God.
So you got to prepare yourself.
The market
But
has been insane. You know, showing up to open houses and showing up to, you know, lines out the door and waiting in the street and you know, and making offers, obscene offers, like, you know, of stupid offers that
yeah,
I felt uncomfortable making even. And,
yeah,
you know, offers accepted. And then, hey, sorry, another realtor didn't, you know, they put it in the system late and, you know, you didn't get, you know, whatever excuse, you know. Dream Home up in Park Hill in Yonkers. Dream Home. I mean, you know, walked out of there like this is the stuff of, you know, that we've been talking about. Offer accepted. Went out to lunch, celebrated. Like we're, you know, we're leaving the city. I was kind of having a panic attack. Phone rings while we're at lunch. Like, sorry, you know, bad news. And you know, it was heartbreaking. And
yeah,
but like that, you know, once again, that's she was a realtor that I would put in the never work with again
right,
stage, right?
right.
Like, you know, because of the misses, right?
And since you've been in sales, I mean, this someone said this to me who I know we probably both mutually know, but I don't want to drop their name. Um, they were like, and they have a very high up like sales position, and he was saying he's like every sales is about speed. That's it. He's like, you have it's all about speed. Because I was telling him like, yeah, when we right now like the way things are, when I have a buyer who gets an accepted offer, like we already like I put the offer in with the home inspection scheduled already. Like if
Right.
offers accepted tonight, we have home inspection scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow. Here's our attorney. If you're accepting the offer, please send the contracts out of it. Like everything to get the ball rolling as fast as I can. And I explained to my buyers, like, look, you don't have a deal until they deposit your escrow check.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
like you know, an old sales saying, like, you know, time kills deals, and it's the truth, right? Like, something I heard the other day, and it really kind of, you know, it made sense to me was like in sales, it's not ready, aim, fire, right? It's literally like fire,
Fire
ready,
and
aim.
ready.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, cause
Yep.
like you're never gonna be perfectly ready. Like you have to be, you know, first to market. You have to at least take the first step and get the ball rolling. And in your case, you know, when you're submitting deals, I'm sure it's like if why not have all the ducks in the row? So then you know, like you know the hurdles in your game. And you
Right.
know that like if I have this, and this, well, that eliminates at least 90% of the hurdles. There's always going to be 10% that pop up in every deal, right? Like nothing's like, you know, sign here, press hard, yellow copy's yours every
Right.
time. You know, like it's just
Yeah.
not going to happen.
No one has a crystal ball. That's
Exactly. Exactly. And then,
Well,
it's a very similar like situation in my industry that I'm in now, right? So like
yeah,
a lot of like, a lot of people, what we were saying, like it isn't hard to break into. Like the barrier to entry into being a real estate agent is low, right? The
right.
barrier to entry in credit repair, what I'm focused on now is low. A lot of people in the industry, a lot of negative reviews out there because
Hmm.
of the low barrier to entry. And that's something that you and, in your industry and me and mine have to overcome by being very good at what we do.
Hmm. Because if you're providing a great service, ultimately people are going to want it and they're going to appreciate it. So I mean, this is, I think, what you're doing is probably huge for home buyers right now. Anybody in this situation. So yeah, give us a little rundown about what Ridgeback Credit Repair is. Like, is it you who's running it? Is this your like, give us the whole
Yeah,
kit and
so
caboodle here.
I just sold my insurance agency last year. I was running it with two guys that you would know very, very well.
Okay.
And we had a couple agencies in our organization. I sold mine. Just there's a few things that happened in the market that I was like, okay, it is timing wise. It was located on Long Island. Like I don't live on Long Island, so I was doing a reverse commute from the city out and then Jersey out, and it was um, but what I saw was in the way that the economy's going, the way that I see the market going. People are going to be tied directly to their credit score no matter what. And it is paramount in your industry. And I think it's going to be paramount in a lot of others, right?
Mm,
When you see the same person walk into an insurance agency with, I'm going to make up a Kia Sorento, and it's the same miles, the same make, the same model, the same color, and they live next door to each other and they're the same age and the same, makeup, what have you. Well, your credit score is the deciding factor on what you pay for insurance. It's a major part of your insurance score.
right.
Um, and if you have a mortgage, right, like just say like a $250,000 home or a $500,000 home, and I have an 800 and you have a 580, and we both buy the same house. Well, in 30 years, I think it's like something like $200,000 more of the cost of that house due to the interest rate that you're getting based on your
Mhm.
credit, right?
People ask me that all the time where they're like, "Oh, well, what are interest rates right now?" And it's like, well, on average, they're 6.5, but in the back of my head, I'm like, well, what's your credit score? Because
Right,
that's going to
right.
determine
Like,
so much.
yeah, like if you got an 800, it's 6.5. Like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like, and we'll be happy to get you a mortgage. If you're at a 580, well, hey, listen, we got some digging to do,
Right.
right? So that's it, right? Like what we try to do is help people educate themselves on what really makes a good credit score.
Hmm.
But B, 90% of what we get lead wise, referrals, right? People that said, I found my dream home. I made an offer or what have you. The realtor let me make an offer, right? Most good realtors won't let you do it until they figure out the big picture, right? But I got disqualified for that. I couldn't qualify for the mortgage. And I need to get this done yesterday. Well, unfortunately, it's not an overnight kind of thing. We can move quickly if people want to move quickly, but like it does take some time to work through. But we try to help people qualify for mortgages, qualify for better loans, be able to restructure their finances. And I think most importantly, but I think it gets tossed to the wayside, is financial education, teaching people what your credit score is tied to and how much money you are just wasting by not properly, getting that into the 700, 720 plus, which is like
Hmm.
the ideal range.
My credits in the toilet, right? I'm walking into well, I'm probably going online. I love your website, by the way. It's great. You could do it all on there, ridgebackcredit.com. And I go onto the website and I start filling out. So what are some of the things that are going to happen like when I go on the website and start filling
Sure,
stuff
sure,
out?
sure. So I'll walk you through the process. It's pretty straightforward, right? You come in, we set up monitoring. So if you don't have credit monitoring right now, anybody, whether you're going for a mortgage, credit repair, or what have you, you should have some type of credit monitoring. The major three that I work with: Hero Score, Identity IQ, and Smart Credit. I think you can sign up for like $1 for most of them, and then if you cancel within 30 days, what have you. But the good part about the monitoring is this: there's three credit bureaus.
Hmm.
When you go on a Credit Karma, they're not pulling from all three. If you have an auto loan, it may report to two of them, not the third, what have you. So you're not getting the proper bigger picture of what your
Right.
credit looks like. So monitoring is in place. It pulls the reports from all three bureaus, and you can get a refreshed report when you're paying for the monitoring every 30 days. That's step one. Step two, free consultation. We do this. We sit down on a Zoom call. I pull the report up on one screen and I share my screen with you, and we go over everything that's on the report. At that point, I'll know what programs to use, rough estimate of how long it's going to take, and then some whatever pricing package we're going to go through, right? Shameless plug for all the listeners and fellow KP people. Mention the podcast, and we'll get a pretty hefty discount in there for you, right?
Nice. Love it. Love it. No
No
one's ever
doubt.
given a free discount on this before.
That's it, man. That's it. We got to take care of our people.
So absolutely. So what's something people should know about, or let me start here. What's a way people are maybe unknowingly damaging their credit? Like, is there something that pops up a lot that people aren't aware of that you see and you're like, oh, like people need to know about this?
So the top three things are this, right? On-time payments. So whether you're paying the minimum, now should you pay the minimum? No, but times are tough, things get tight, what have you, make that minimum payment. You'll see on the screen when I pull it up, it's like literally green, yellow, red. Like it's are you making on-time payments? Are they a little 30, 60 days behind, or are they red, which is like 120, and now you're getting, your credit score is getting murdered. Pay your cards on time. That's step one, and it's the easiest step. Step two is this: credit utilization. So an example of this is you have two credit cards, $5,000 limit each. So you have $10,000 of credit limit, right? You want to keep the amount that's sitting on those cards under $3,000, 30% of your credit utilization. That's the threshold. That's the magic threshold that they look at, the 30% mark.
Okay.
So things you can do to fix that: pay it down. Okay, that sounds great, John. I don't have 10 grand sitting in the account to pay my thing down. Okay, cool. Call them up. If your credit's not terrible, call them up, ask for a credit line increase. So just say those two $5,000 cards go to $7,500 each. Well, now you got $15,000 worth of credit limit, right? And your utilization rate goes down. So,
Gotcha.
So those are the two, like it's crazy, but those are the two major factors in credit. And then inquiries, right? Hard inquiries. If you go to a car dealership, they are going to tell you, I despise car dealerships from the insurance world.
I think everybody does.
It's like I was just saying to my wife, like, if there's two things that need to be completely burnt to the ground in America and rebuilt, it's car dealerships and whatever is going on with the airlines. I'm taking a flight tomorrow. I got to pay for my carry-on. I got to pay for my check-in. I think I got to pay for my hair gel. Like it's getting ludicrous, right? So like now I'm on a rant about airlines.
You could go on a rant about car dealerships. Well, I use a lease agent now. It's the only thing I do. I will never go to a dealership again.
Agreed.
The way they operate, the lack of transparency, it's pure. It's so bad, and I don't want to badmouth any business owners out there who are, but clean it up. That's all I could say.
To me is like, if you could be a pioneer in the industry, right? If you own a car dealership and you could provide like transparent, easy to use, great service where you walk in and don't feel like you need a shower after talking to one of your sales guys, like you would probably get more business. I don't know why all of them decide to just, make a deal with the devil and turn into, whatever slime balls they are.
Well, what's amazing is like there's only one other business that takes you into the back room to exchange money. And that's not legal in most states.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
Think about that, like, oh, so we have to go into the back room to do business here.
Talk to this mystery finance guy. You know what I mean? Like
this is where we do this. Like it's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, so they pull your credit hard, I'm assuming.
Well, they'll always tell you like it's a soft pull, or like we only go through one, and then you hit your credit report and it's 15 different banks that they shopped it out, right? Like, so what you can do to kind of combat that is go to your bank, go to your, the bank that you like the most. And I know a lot of people online love their credit unions, right? And I do, I do too. My family, does, both Bethpage, I think, and I don't Federal, what have you, right?
Right.
But go to your credit union and get an idea, like ask them to provide like a pre-authorization. And that way, you know, going in kind of where the money lies, and you know, tell these guys, do not run my credit until like we have a deal on the table. If they got to run it, then so be it. But then you can go through your bank.
Right. Right.
You know, don't let them go do the, you know, the dozen hard inquiries that, you know, stick around in your credit report, right? Um, Now, the good part about a lot of that stuff, like collections, repos, all that stuff, they can be eventually removed.
Okay.
You know, so that's a huge plus. We've even gotten bankruptcies removed. The hard part about bankruptcies is you took a pen and you went down to the courthouse and said, like, you know, this is a transaction that I'm willingly going through. It's very hard to dispute something where your signature's sitting right there. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Okay. So that's a little tricky.
Yeah, it's hard to fight the signature, you know.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But you know, from a home buyer, you know, when you're, I think when, you know, because this podcast, right, is kind of like gauged towards home buyers and the real estate market,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
as
Essentially.
part
Yes.
of your like get your can I like as when you're getting your shit together, like have this as part of it, right? Like
Right.
don't like go in and find the house of your dreams and fall in love with it and take ownership and see your kids playing in the yard and seeing your big screen TV, you know, up on the wall and the pool table in the basement, and then turn around and not be able to, even if you can afford it, not be able to get, you know, access to a mortgage.
Right.
Right? Like how devastating is that, right? So
It's the
um
worst. It's the
yeah, no
absolute
doubt.
worst.
Like, you know, put this as part of your due diligence package, you know, like, you know, I'm sure you got your money in order. You need to have, you know, certain bank statements and, you know, proof of funds and all that. Well, make your credit history and your, you know, cleaning up your credit, you know, part of your due diligence package before you go into a program like, you know, working with yourself.
Yeah. And that's, it's good in the sense that a lot of the mortgage guys are really great with this, and they make sure that stuff is done appropriately, and because you have to be, because the worst possible, I mean, the thing is, like, in the contract there's a way to get out of it, right? Like like that is one of the ways that people were actually um utilizing the contract for real estate, was they were basically saying like, okay, I got cold feet about this house when interest rates started like tickling I can't talk. When interest rate, probably bad for a podcast. When interest rates started going up, right? When they
Yeah,
started
you've never had a
rising,
problem talking, Johnny.
um, when they started going really high, and people were like, "Oh, wait a minute now, they just jumped from like 3% to 5.5%. Whoa!" And people were using the contingency, like a lot of people could still afford the houses, but they were
Sure.
using that contingency to back out of the deal, and it was like, whoa, 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 it's good that it's there in case someone really can't get the financing. But you think about like the seller in that scenario. The seller is waiting, they're hoping to sell their house. They've like, in a lot of ways, I tell buyers, like, it's kind of like you're winning the lottery. Because to be able to get that deal with all the competition that's out there, and for you to be selected to be the one to buy this house, oh my goodness, it's literally like winning the lottery. It's so important. And ultimately, like, the seller loses so much more than the buyer in that scenario, because the buyer is more than likely going to get their down payment back.
Sure.
Well, not their down payment, sorry, their
Deposit.
escrow payment, like their earnest money deposit. They're going to get
Yep.
that back. And the seller now has just lost so much time on market, whether it's, they might have been off the market for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, depending on
Right.
closing time. So they've taken a big hit. And now when that house comes back on market now, people are like, well, oh, what was wrong with this house? They don't think
Right.
that like the deal died, the person lost their finance. No, they think something's wrong with the house, blah, blah, blah. And now they may not
Inspection came back, something like that. Yeah.
exactly, like, they may not think that they're able to get the price that they might think they don't have to pay the price that the seller originally had. So it's a really tricky situation, and it's just a step, again, that's so easy to do. Like you said, just make sure that all your ducks are in a row, make sure that everything's done correctly, and then you don't have to deal with this come time to actually buy your house. I mean, that's one of the things,
Absolutely.
like, I call mortgage people when we're selling a house. Like, I'm on the phone with the mortgage people, and I am like, how did you underwrite this deal? Like, what did you ask for? Did you just do it online? Did you pull their credit? Did you get W-2s? Did you do this? Because there's so many things that go into that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And like, hindsight 2020 for all the people that were pulling deals at, 4.5%, because the interest rates went up, like, I'm sure
Yeah.
they shot themselves in the foot hard there, and it's like, the thing is like, look, I get it, right? Like, you got to be able to afford it. I get that part, but like, buy the house. Like, rates will change. You're going to
Right.
have the opportunity to refinance down the road, like one way or another. You know what I mean? Like, rates are going to move. It's just, that's the market,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So if you
Exactly.
love it, if that's your dream house, like, find a way to figure it out, get it done.
Right. And that's the thing, nobody it's a tough thing because no one wants to feel um that they're being taken advantage of or anything like that. And yeah, it's ultimately it's like get the house and figure it out later. Like I'm the people I'm working with now, I'm explaining, I've been talking a lot about um buy downs, buying down the
Mhm.
interest rate. Because I don't know, like realtors know about it. It's a thing that's talked about, but nobody really uses it that much. And I'm like, look, right now is like a great time to strike if you are if you really do want to buy and you see a house that like you see potential in. Obviously you shouldn't force yourself into a house, but
No.
the things that I say that you can't change are the location. Like I'm coining my new phrase of how I want to explain this to people because I want things to be as simple as possible. So I'm calling it the lamp. So if the lamp is on, we're good to go. Like so
Right.
the buyers I'm working with in 2024, I'm working this in now, is lamp. Like if the lamp is on, we're going to see the house. So the
Mhm.
lamp is the location as far as where it is on like its lot, right? That's the lot location. Like how is the lot? Is it flat? Is it a good lot of land? Take all that into account.
Sure.
Where does it sit on the street? Is there a dump near it? Is there a cemetery a block away? Is it across the street or behind a firehouse that goes off and is not a silent firehouse that you're going to hear every night? So we have the lot. Then the next is, well, I threw in some area too. The next is the area, just generally like, I can't legally talk about school districts, but how do you like the school districts? Do you like the town? Is there a downtown? Does it meet your physical needs as far as what you want in your local neighborhood? Does it have
Mhm. Mhm.
sidewalks? Does it have street lamps? Stuff like that. Um, and then what was the I can't remember the next part of lamp because I'm just really rolling this out, but um well, monthly
M.
payment. That's what it is. Monthly payment.
Monthly
Ultimately,
payment.
the monthly payment is all that matters because
100%.
if you could get that monthly payment down by, let's say, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but if you get your credit score up from, let's say, 700 to 800, that's probably a significant difference where you might be
Whole
going
different
from
ballgame.
6.5 to 6.25. And yeah, 6.25, 6.5 to
Sure.
6.25. That's like, $80 a month, but
100%.
$80 a month over 30 years is a shitload of money.
Yeah. No, no, no doubt. No doubt. And plus, like, if you think about it, like your options expand, right? Like what,
Hmm.
like if you're going out to a broker and you got an 800 credit score, well, the world is your oyster. Like
Right.
there's nobody that won't give you money. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Now if he's got a shop, then your options get limited and limited, right? So,
Right.
it all ties back to that,
Yeah.
right?
And they've made so many options for lower credit scores, which is great. But obviously the best thing you could possibly do for yourself is get your credit score as high as possible because like you
100%.
said, it just opens up more opportunity for you to borrow if you need. There's so much more opportunity if your credit score is higher. Whereas like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you buy a house, your credit score does take a hit, right? A little bit.
So it's the inquiry on when the mortgage broker runs it. If it's a hard inquiry, it does take a little bit of a hit. The
Okay.
only thing is with that, like if you're at an 810, maybe you go to an 805. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
So it's
so
not
like, but you
significant.
don't want to
Yeah.
be like a 725 and take that hit underneath because like then like all of a sudden you're playing games, right? Um, you know,
725 is like the peak line, right? Like that's where you're
720 is really where you want to be
okay.
above. You know what I mean? Like that 720 score is kind of like the sweet spot, right? And like,
Yeah.
but like, the 800 now you're like, you're a juicy steak at a mortgage broker's. You know what I mean? Like that, you're looking good. People want to compete for your business at that point,
Right. Right. And that's
But
when
like, and
you
then
can
this
shop.
is the other thing, right? Like if you're talking about getting that credit score like, to the next level, right? You pay less money in car insurance. You pay less money for your car payment. You pay less money for your cell phone bill. a lot of like, I don't think it happens in New York State, but like there's some like landlords, right? There's apartments that you pay less money for apartments if you have a better credit score.
Hmm.
Like your life expenses drop. So like not only can you now afford more house or the house at, while rates are a little higher, well, there's a way to offset that difference, right? And it's by, doing your own rate change essentially, by getting that credit score in check.
Right. And it's really a small investment that could have a big ROI at the end. Like,
100%. Like, I'm pretty transparent with pricing, but an average investment to get your credit score fixed could be like between $1,000 and $1,500.
which I mean, that's the thing to put into perspective for people, like, let's just say for buying a house, is if you told me pay $1,000 up front, but you could get your interest rate down by like, you know, 0.2,
Right.
that you've made that up in a year. Like in a
You,
year,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
back.
You
Like
you
it's
could
done.
whiteboard that in front of somebody and be like, if you don't do this, there's something wrong. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right. And
it's
that was the hardest part for people to stomach just about when interest rates got high was like this is why I've been pitching to a lot of people that are serious about buying now that I'm working with is these buy downs, because it's like, look, you're gonna, if you work it right, you get a seller concession to get, the seller gives you a certain amount of money to buy down that interest rate 2 percentage points in the first year, 1 percentage point in the second year. So the amount of money that you save over the life of the loan is like crazy, because
I'm sure, yeah.
ultimately you're dealing with right now, if you were able to secure a deal right now, and look, you're not going to get the hot house with this deal unless you went so far over asking, you waived the appraisal and you were like, okay, look, we're going 100K over asking, but we're asking for 20,000 back in order to buy down the rate, which, and you could only give a certain percentage of the house, or a certain percentage of the asking price. Like 6% is the highest concession you can get, I think. But
Okay.
either way, if you go from a 6.5 to a 4.5 right now, it's about almost $600 a month in interest that you're saving in year one. So that's a huge savings right there. By next year, for everything that I'm seeing, been told by more mortgage professionals, not me, is that we are going to see rates trickle down. And if rates stay anywhere, like let's say they come down to hopefully where they're looking at in 2025, what people are saying is somewhere in like the mid fives is where we'll
Mhm.
ultimately settle, like pre-pandemic stuff, 2018. Well, that was really
Yep.
like 2017, I guess, which, you know what, 5.5 interest rate. I know 3 is amazing. Bye-bye. It's never happening again.
No, and I haven't been I'm the unluckiest Irish person on the planet. But like I think I blew all my luck on my mortgage rate. It's mid twos and but like I'm never
That's it.
leaving.
That's
I'm
it.
never like this
Yep.
house will be passed down from generation to generation because
They'll be
I
wheeling you out of there. Like,
yeah, no doubt, and that's the thing, right? It's like but like somebody told me the other, I was talking to a mortgage broker, buddy of mine, and he's like, look, like in the 70s, the interest rate was like 15 or
yeah,
18% or something like
yeah.
that.
It's almost 20%.
He goes, when did your parents buy the house? Like, like 1980, whatever. Like, do you think they would have done it again if they saw the level of appreciation that they got in that house? Like, did the interest rate really matter?
Mhm.
Would you buy the house? Of course I would, 1,000 times over.
Absolutely.
Are you
I
talking
mean,
about bungalows in San Remo that are worth $1 million right now?
right.
Like,
And you have no, at the same time, like a lot of times you have no choice. So it's like you, like if you have to move, you have to move. And whether you like the rate or not, like if you have to move, you're moving. Like it doesn't
right,
matter. And you got to figure out what works best for you, because it comes down to a matter of wanting to pay and needing to pay. And it's like, yeah, nobody wants to pay a
right.
ton of money. Like I didn't want to pay the money I paid for my house when I bought it.
No,
And I bought it for 525 and now it's worth almost 800.
right,
Like,
right,
and
right,
you know what house I'm in. Like it's the raised ranch. It's not a high ranch where it's a split when you walk in. It's not that. It's like the house when you walk in and everything's on one level except the living room is like up.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I know exactly where you're at. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like the Primrose, like those houses are on like Primrose and Jasmine and in that area over
Sure.
there.
Yeah. Yep.
So like for my house to know that, I spent that much money, but I'm sitting on that much equity right now. it's a
Hmm.
no-brainer. Like I would never, I would do it all over again. But I didn't like paying the money then. I was like, this is crazy. This is too
Right.
much. We're stretching ourselves. And you are, and everybody's stretching themselves. And that's what sucks. But like houses aren't going to be affordable on Long Island. If they are, you're probably not in like it's not a great market. Like something either went
Right.
terribly wrong, which we don't want to ever deal with again because that means like crazy unemployment, horrible things are happening. There's no
Yeah, we
predatory.
can't do another 07, 08
Yeah.
again, that's for sure. You know,
And like mortgage guys aren't, that's not happening anymore. Like those, all that stuff is by the wayside. So it would take something catastrophic again. Um and who wants to see that? Or you're buying in an area that's like what would be considered maybe like a C area that's maybe up and coming. So maybe you're getting an affordable house there, but you're going to wait a long time to
sure.
realize that investment,
Sure. And
or
then it's,
you're
that's also a lifestyle thing. You know
right.
what I mean? Like you can wait for appreciation, but like if you gotta, jog from your car to your front door, after 8 p.m., it's like,
Get your work at
it,
it.
right, exactly,
Well, see,
like,
I like what you said before when we were talking off camera because it's funny because my father-in-law did the same thing with his business. So you were saying like you just basically like you put a dot and you were like, "Psh, we'll look
yep.
anywhere in here." And it's just funny business wise because I don't know if he told me or wife told me my father-in-law runs he's a periodontist in Rockville Center. He has a big practice there, a really great and successful practice. And I was like, how did you wind up in Rockville Center? And he, this is back in, I guess, the early 90s. He got a map of Long Island out and he mapped out every single periodontist on Long Island. And then by doing that, saw where there was the least amount in like the best area and like did a circular radius thing like you did and was like, boom, like, oh, Rockville Center, perfect town. Like, oh,
Genius.
and just that's where he planted his business. And he was the guy there for however long, a few more popped up, but he was like one of the first ones there and he crushed it. He did great.
You ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy?
Oh no, I was thinking of Bluefish, the guy Bluefish one. No, I never read Blue Ocean Strategy.
Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a good book, but it basically says like, there's no reason to swim in like the crowded rivers. Like go where there is no competition and like be, the go-to. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean, and it's just that's the way his brain works,
I'm
and
just, you
like,
can see, I'm a huge, I never
oh
stop
yeah,
reading.
good. I got one for you actually. I was thinking of you because I see when you post like the books that you read and stuff, and this one really like I honestly I find a lot of self-help books to be a lot of them are bullshit.
Well, there's
Um
a lot of chest pounding,
yeah,
like,
and just like a
yeah.
lot of them are a lot of fluff where it's like there's nothing really tangible here. Like because I'm the kind of person, it's like I'm very coachable. It's like, tell me exactly what to do. I'm gonna go
Hmm.
fucking do it. Like I'm
Yep.
just gonna go do it. Like you tell me, like I do a system with real estate. They're like, okay, like John, every week you have to make 36 phone calls, you have to write 10 notes, you have to do this, and with these based on what you've done in the past, this will get you 6 referrals a month and you convert at a 50% rate. So you should have 3 deals. Like it's all mapped out for me. It's like, okay,
Yep.
I just gotta do my shit. But a lot of these self-help books are like, oh, you know, you need to set a goal. And yeah, like a goal with the so whatever. I just
Yeah.
find them a lot of them are BS, right?
I feel
So
it.
so this one, I'm gonna send it to you. It's called It All Starts with a Goal. I think that's the title of it. And he was speaking on a podcast I listened to, and he was basically just going through, he like did a lot of research and he's like, like starting with the end in mind is the right thing. He's like, but people misconstrue what you should do. He's like, like a vision board. He's like, honestly, he's like, it could be one of the most detrimental things to you because you don't have anything to get you from start to that. It's just like, okay, that's the end, but like, how do I get there? So
Right.
he came up with this system for setting really like just incremental goals and how to achieve them. And it makes sense because it's actually a plan and a process. Really freaking cool and really simple and really broken down. Like it was one of the few books, self-help ones that I read, and I was like, okay, this one actually like speaks to people who are like pragmatic
I love
and
that.
like need a plan. Dude, you will eat this book alive. Like I actually stopped because it's like, okay, chapter 1 is like map out your moments. And it's basically just write down. He's like, don't write, like they say, like, don't look into your past, do this. He's like, totally, he's like, wrong. He's like, think about every single moment in your life that's made you happy and smile and write it down. So that's like step one. He's like, I have a list of like 180 things, like just awesome moments that make me happy. And then you start to categorize them. And it's like, it's either relational, it's an achievement, it's an experience, or it's an object. And then you start to categorize them. So now I haven't even moved on to chapter 4 yet, because I'm like, all right, I want to get my stuff down because this makes sense. And the goals are all based off of those type of things, and like figuring out, all right, well, what makes you happy? Why aren't you doing that more? You know, like simple stuff,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's a process. And I'm like, yeah, this actually makes sense. Like, this is good. I'll send
Right, right,
you,
right.
I'll
Actionable
send,
items, like, one thing that like I think a lot of the guys that I've like, religiously followed,
yeah,
and I go through a lot of like there's one book that I have it over there, and like I started reading it and I was 4 chapters deep, and I said, like, I was like sitting in bed and I was reading it, and I was like, I don't even know what this book is about. Like the guy just kept saying, like, if you read this book, like continue reading this book, and you will have vast wealth. And if you just follow this book. And I'm like, all right, dude, but like at what point in time do you explain like what you did to get the Lambo? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
because I can't figure it out, right?
nope,
But what a lot of the top guys that I follow, and like I'm actually flying down to Miami tomorrow for a mastermind at this guy Eric Spofford's house. It just been in that crew for a little bit, um, but it's about stackable wins, and I didn't realize about like the momentum that you can give yourself just by like doing like this like little victories like in the morning or like in the beginning of your day or what have you, like whether it's like I don't know if you ever heard of 75 hard, but like
yes,
certain things like getting the morning workout out of the way, getting half a gallon out of the way, progress pictures, getting reading done, or prayer or gratitude or whatever like that you're into in your morning routine. And like
hmm,
those little victories, even like not hitting the snooze button, like and keeping that promise to yourself, like I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 and hit the road for some road work tomorrow, and
right.
like getting up and doing it, that's a W. Like that trains your brain, like, okay, the next W, the next W. And then all of a sudden you have momentum into the day. Like though things like that, like you said, like coachable things that I can implement, like if that's where the gold is and the value is in these books, because there is a
Yeah.
lot of fluff out there for sure.
Well, and it's funny because there's two things that you made me think of when you said that. So the first one is it was a self-help, I think it was called Unfuck Yourself. Um
Yeah, great book.
and it's, yeah, and that one is about like, even if you're not doing those things, you're training your brain that you're winning, because
Right.
you're like, I'm not getting up. I won. Like, I got what I wanted. So like, if you don't do all those positive things, your brain is still learning that it's winning. So you could really fuck yourself.
Right.
Whereas like
Right.
by doing those things and making it happen all the time and just following that routine, that is the win that keeps building, like you're talking about. Um, and then, oh shit, I forgot the other thing I was gonna say. That you made me think of when you were talking about that. I don't know, but yeah, well, just I think in general what you were saying about doing those things day in and day out, like that's kind of what the book is called, All It Takes Is a Goal. And that's what mapping those moments are, because it's like, okay, like every day I wake up and I do this. I don't know if you've heard of Wim Hof. You ever do Wim Hof
Yeah,
breathing?
of course. I've listened. I tried it a few times. I passed out once. Like I was like, I was laying down. I was getting in. I was breathing. I was bringing the flow through. I was
Yep.
feeling it, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden I was like fucking tipped over like a tea kettle, and like there was,
Oh
you know.
shit. All right. Well, you got to
Thankfully, I
lay
was on
down.
like a yoga mat. You know.
You don't have to do it that hard. That's like one of the things I'm like, oh, I got to make this isn't right if it's not hurting. And it's like, no, I learned
Right.
that about Wim
Right.
Hof. Like
Well, that's like
you,
kind of how we grew up, right? It's like, or we played ball, and it's like
right.
everything's got to be done at 100% intensity. And now, like I'm you're in your 40s, and I'm damn close.
Look,
And
I'm
like,
I'm 40. I'm not in my 40s.
right
I'm
there you go.
40.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've crossed the border there. But like I was playing ice hockey. And I was playing ice hockey, and I stepped in. I shattered my hand last year
Ugh.
because I stepped in front of us like a slap shot. Like I stepped in front of a slap shot, and like in my head I'm like, no, that's how we play. But then I'm like everybody else is like, bro, like the Blackhawks are not in the stands. Like there is no shot of you making the league. Stop.
Hey,
Like,
look, there might be some teams you had a chance again, not.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
But yeah, no,
exactly.
you're right. It's like, you want to play hard and you want to do like we were instilled with that mindset. It was a different time, right? Where it was like everything you got, you put your body on the line. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day now, it's like I don't need to it was so funny the morning, I've done Wim Hof now for like a year and a half. Really
Every
only
day,
the
like is it part of your routine every day?
Yeah,
Like,
it's like I get up at 4:50 in the morning and that's the first thing I do.
love that.
Um,
Okay, that's
it's
cool.
great because it wakes me up. I'm there. I'm like centered. I'm good. I'm there. And the crazy thing is like once I stopped, there were times where like I was like, "Ah, I don't want to do it because I was like pushing myself really hard and like going and like even the breaths, I was like as hard as I could. And then I'm like, why am I doing this so hard? Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is supposed to be
Yeah,
enjoyable. It's supposed to make me feel good. And then the first day I did it, I laid there. I was just like, and I did like pretty normal breathing. And like my last round, I was breathless, like no breath in my body for like 2 minutes and 15 seconds without like breaking a sweat. And I was like,
wow,
okay, like this is the way it's supposed to be done. Like
sure, yeah,
you're getting all the positive things. I don't know, like that. And it's just, again, it's another, like now every morning, it's like I look forward to it. It's like I want to get up and do Wim Hof because I feel great after it. Keeps me healthy. I tell people at work, at school, I'm like, kids are, I love my students, I love my children, but they're germ pops. Like this kid's nasty.
no doubt, yeah,
So it's like I got to keep my immune system, rock solid. And like Wim
sure.
Hof, like I get like one cold a year and I'm fine. And like it does what it says it's gonna do. And that's like no matter what the self-help thing. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Sorry, and then I'll stop ranting. One of the worst self-help books I ever. I'm not gonna say the name because the guy's getting sued, and he'll probably like find this random obscure thing on YouTube and sue me. Um, there was not a single ounce. This is supposed to be one of the best salesmen in the world. Real estate guy getting sued. You can probably figure out who it is.
Oh, I
And
already know who it is, buddy.
his book sucked, like
Yeah,
sucked to me personally, because I'm like, again, it's a lot of talking without anything. And the only piece of information that I gleaned from it that I thought was any bit useful was he was like, when someone comes over to my house and they want water, I put the glass out, I pour the water in it, or no, I bring the water out, I put the pitcher next to them, I put a glass with ice there, and then they could decide, and I put an empty glass with no ice in it, and then they decide if they want water with ice or without ice. I just give them everything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a good way to treat a guest. Like when they come to the house, that was it.
sure.
That was it. Like, and you're supposed to be like the master of like sales and business and real estate. And it's like, this is the
Yeah,
best piece of advice.
I knew immediately who you were talking about, and I even went to one of his events like a while back, like, and same thing. Like the event was cool. It was like some good speakers and stuff, but like
Yeah.
it's just too much. Like the chest pounding and like you got to be like, man, it's like, dude, like not for nothing, but you were a used car salesman and you still are. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, you still are,
Yeah.
and
The slimiest.
just yeah, like, and there's a reason you're getting sued. You know what I mean? Like, there's a
Yeah.
reason why. Like, look, like I know a lot of people get dinged. You know what I mean? A lot of top dogs are, they're always on the radar for something. But
Right.
like when I screw people over consistently, and like you put up this nonsense consistently, like you're going to be, it's going to come to light.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be exposed eventually, right? Like
Yep.
people are going to realize, like you aren't who you say you are. You're not doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and there's a lot of people out there like that.
it's
The
and it's a
whole
shame.
industry is like that. Like and like, I'm a huge proponent of coaching. A
Yeah.
huge proponent of
Oh
coaching.
yeah.
I'll get a coach for anything. To me, it's like to be able to minimize the mistakes and the time that it takes to get to a certain level of mastery in anything. Like for this, the credit repair thing. Like I had an idea of how to fix credit, but like I hired a credit repair coach who walked me through like, no, like this is how you approach it and this is the proper way to do it. And it just from being able to see it from somebody's expert eyes and get that level, you know what I mean? I think coaching is probably some of the most important things you can do.
Yeah. Well, especially like what you're doing is so important too. Like it would be like you wouldn't have, obviously you have a very good reputation at this point. Like
Yeah,
your business is booming, like you're doing a great job. So that means obviously not only are you doing not only are you repairing credit, but people are enjoying their service from you, which is like the biggest testament, right? And
John, it goes back to exactly what you and I were discussing before about the car dealerships or like the airlines, right? There's so many scumbags, honestly. There's so many trash companies. There's so many wannabes. There's so many people that want to make money quick by cutting corners. And what I'm trying to do in an industry full of it is the opposite. Like I'm like, we don't get like, there's, in 30 days, like get your credit fixed in 30 days. It's like, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like and I think
How
people,
often do they expect that when they come to you? Does everybody expect
oh,
their
it's a
credit?
very, very common thing. Like, and it's very like, I gotta get into an apartment by, February 15th. And I'm like, buddy, like unfortunately, you're just not, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, and you got to tell the blunt truth. And, a lot of the times they'll be like, well, this guy said blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, I will not badmouth a competition. It's not how I do business.
Yeah.
If you go with them, I'll give you a discount to start now if it's a money thing. But if you go with them and come back, the discount's gone. And the reason being is like, I'm going to give you a chance to actually do it correctly. And if you don't want to take it, I get it. And I'm not like, my high pressure sales days, are in the past, right? Like if I was 21, 22 years old, like buy or die, right? Like either he
Yeah.
hangs like, or he hangs up on me, whatever. Like this is very simple. Like I'm going to do the right thing and it will come back in spades. What I'm not going to do is cut corners because it's not going to benefit anybody.
Right. And I mean, that's just how you become the used car salesman. Like you said, no offense
Right.
to used car salesmen out there. Like there's probably some really good ones.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some great
And
ones.
I'm happy to meet them. 'Cause I'm up with 2 leases soon and I'm happy to meet any of them. But like, yeah,
No doubt.
it's just about treating people right. And I don't get it. Like, because I don't want to just, I'm not going to pin it on car salesmen. Like they're everywhere. Um,
Sure.
Especially in real estate too. And it's just, like, look, that's not to say like I am the most amazing real estate agent. Like there are agents I would refer people to, like if I wasn't doing this, who I know are really, really good and way better than me. But I know the way I'm going to treat someone. I know the way I'm going to approach the situation. And the situation is going to be, this is the most important financial decision that you are probably going to make in your life, aside from if it's buying it, it's your first big one, and your next big one is going to be selling it. And you just like, I take that very seriously. Like,
Mhm.
we grew up in the same town. We grew up probably in the same financial situation where our
Yeah.
parents worked and we had a roof over our heads and money and food and whatever. But we weren't able to go on like excursions every weekend to Guam, and do
I
whatever we
went to
wanted. Like,
Virginia Beach once in 1993. I talk about it like it was,
yeah,
going to the Taj Mahal. You know what I
right.
mean? Like I still
There's
remember because my parents let me buy baby roots out of the vending machine the entire week. It was
yeah,
the highlight of my childhood.
right. It was
Like,
great. Because that's, it's just like we're come from working class people. And it's like,
no
I
doubt.
respect the fact that someone like this is everything they have to buy this house. Like it's
Right.
everything. And to me, it's just like, first of all, I've been in that position. You've been in that position. You know
Hell
what it's
yeah.
like to watch all that money
It's a very scary
go into
thing.
the cloud. It's literally
Yeah.
in the cloud. You're like, holy shit, it's gone. And I
Yeah.
have this big giant ass thing that's gonna cost me more money, but it's gonna make me money in the end, and I got to take care of it. And it's like, I get it. Like that's such a huge deal. So
There's
anybody
a
who
good
just,
picture of me like the day before I got the check from the bank, and it's like, I'm holding a check for like a quarter mil in my hand, and I'm like sweating, just
yeah,
like, are we doing this? Like,
yeah,
like,
it's terrifying.
oh, it's horrible.
But someone who goes into that nonchalant or doesn't like do their homework or doesn't know how to protect their client, to me, it's just like, God, just don't do it. Like,
Right.
don't ruin somebody's you're like the chances of you ruining them financially are probably minimal. But at the same time, like the chances of you messing up their future by not getting them into the house or getting them into a really bad investment, that is something you could do, and that has ramifications. And just be aware, just do a good job, do your research, and care about the people that you're dealing with. I feel like that's all it really takes.
Right, right. And then vice versa is like sometimes like, I think, the sales thing, right? Like it's also like knowing your client and knowing that you're doing the right thing and this is a good investment and you'll still get clients. Like that's I think the biggest thing that I bring to bed every night, and I really need to leave it in the office, is like there's a lot of people where you're like, yo, Jim, you need to do this. Like you need to do this. This will benefit you for the rest of your life. And I'm
Mhm.
sure there's people where you're like, no, like you got to push this ball down the road because this is exactly what you need. And sometimes they're like, no, I want to take a step back, or and you're like, you kind of got to turn into a pushy salesperson and push them over the edge, and like a hope to God like it comes back to you and they say, you know what, you were right, like this whole time, like what have you. But like it's a hard part about being in sales sometimes is like when it is a good fit and when it will benefit them, and they still like they can't go across the line, the finish line there, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's where like being a good confidant, right, being a trusted advisor
Right.
comes in, because you know you need to build that level of trust and being like, look, you're gonna have to trust me on this one and move forward with this because you need it,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and even it's significant differences in money, but in the same light, you're dealing with probably like whoever's coming to you is probably like, oh, do I want to drop a G on this to hopefully get it to work? Whereas, and in real estate, it's like, oh, do I want this to be the house that I'm moving into? And it gets very emotional, and it's very hard for people to look past like the immediate money, the immediate payment, the monthly payments, instead of looking at big picture down the road. Because it's like I could see a good investment a mile away. Like I could see the picture come up on Zillow and know the neighborhood and be like, this is the solid buy, like solid buy if you get it at this price.
Right.
And it's the same thing for you. Like they're coming in there and it's like, look, I know, like, yeah, I know it's $1,000 out of pocket right now. And if your credit's taking a little bit of a hit, like you don't want to spend any money. Like I get it. But like I'm setting you up for 3 months from now. I'm not setting
Right.
me up for this moment. Like I'm setting you up good for 3 months from now. And it's smart if you do that, but I don't want to like take the money out of your pocket. Like if I can't convince you now that this is such a good deal for you, that this
Right.
is the right thing to do, then maybe you do need to step back and just think about it and think like, okay, like, is it smart to sit and wait this out?
Right. 100%. 100%.
It's
You
tough.
know.
But like you said, you want to, when you know it's the best thing for them, it's like, God, like this is the best thing for you to do.
Right. Right.
It's like
Right.
you can't shake them, and like you want to.
Yeah, no, it's hard. And like a lot of people, a lot of the people that I try to push, like I can get better at it. Like I think this is, another thing that you've been really good at is the content creation, right? And trying to be on social media. And once again, like the way we grew up, like I was taught like you do everything quietly. Like, you don't put it out there. You just go to work, you come home, like, and it's like
Worker
now
bee, baby, worker bee.
that's it. And like
Yep.
now you got like Sammy the Bull Gravano and Michael Franzese, like they have podcasts. And I'm like, all right, well, if these gangsters, like, with the Omerta, like if these guys got podcasts, like you can make a video about it, you know what I mean? Like you could go out there and speak about it.
Yeah.
And so I digress, that like a lot of the people, right, they'll follow. I'll be like, look, go to my Instagram, because like once again, shady industry, trying to be a good person. Like, go to my Instagram. I'm real. I'm a human. I will
Yeah.
Zoom with you. You will see the same guy that's on my Instagram on this call. You know what I mean? But the other thing too is they'll follow me. So the guys that, or the people that say, hey, listen, John, like we're gonna think about this. We're gonna back away. Like we're not gonna move forward or whatever. I'm like, okay, your car just got repoed. Blah blah blah. All right, cool. Then I look at the Instagram. I'm like, are you on vacation? Like, did you just buy a chain? You know what I mean? Like, and then like I'm like, oh my God, like, my blood's boiling. I want to reach through the phone and be like, get that off your neck, give it back to the jeweler. Like,
We're gonna
you
pull on that.
don't.
We're gonna pay down your credit.
Yeah, like, just like you bought that on credit, you're paying too much for that anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's outrageous. So that's another, when
Yeah.
you're invested in your business and you're invested in people, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because it's like how much of it is education? Like
Yes.
you're teaching them what's going. I mean, that's why we're getting paid ultimately. Like you're getting paid to show someone how to properly manage their credit, repair their credit, and then keep an eye on their credit.
100%. Yeah,
So
like a lot of people think it's just like, okay, like can you remove this bankruptcy, or can you remove this inquiry or whatever? The answer is like, yeah, most likely, but it's also like, okay, but then what, right? Like, do we get some good credit cards like in place? Do we make the phone call and get the credit line increased? Do we sell off an asset to pay down this to get our utilization rate? Like,
right,
we can get stuff removed. That'll help, but it's also adding the positive stuff on there that's really going to, ultimately get your score above the 720 mark.
right. So you guys are just like full service, just taking care of everything from start to finish and giving them the best situation possible.
Yeah, like, from an individual standpoint, it's like it usually is the mortgages or cars. Can we qualify for a mortgage? Can we qualify for a car loan? Right. So that's like the individuals that come to us. And then we have a business, like the business funding side is like small businesses, right? Mom and pop shops, electrical supplies, delis, what have you. Like they need cash to grow. A lot of the times though, you're going to apply, with a personal guarantee. on
Mm,
that funding, right?
mhm.
So, when they look at your business, well, okay, the business is making money, but like what, how do we know we're going to get paid back? We're running credit. And the wild part is a lot of small business owners, they leverage out themselves pretty heavily to get that business started, which negatively affects their credit, right?
Right, right,
So in order to grow, you need cash. In order to get cash, you need good credit. And like the cycle continues, right?
right.
So that's like a major part of our business too, is working with small business owners that need funding or additional funding. And we try to help them, work through that system as well.
That makes sense. I mean, I could see that happening very easily.
Mhm.
Um, like
Mhm.
that cycle that you're talking about. So that's a great thing to know that you guys do. Because there's probably people who don't realize that opportunity is out there for them if they need it.
Oh, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. Like, if you're gonna scale a business, like you need cash, you need an influx,
Yeah,
and there's
definitely.
a lot of companies willing to give it to you. Companies love giving money to people with good credit. They fight over it. You know what I mean? They fight over it. That's how
What are
they
some
make.
of those companies, by the way?
I got religion too. I can't drop names just because, like, they compete and they all have licensing agreements with me, so I can't put one over the other,
Yeah, I
unfortunately, on
got you.
this one. Yep. But
I got a couple of little things that I would love to get some funding for.
offline, I can definitely, I'll
Okay.
definitely have a convo with you for sure.
All
No doubt,
right. Well,
man.
listen then. Why don't we end the recording here? Um, but this was good. It was good catching up with you.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I'm so glad to see you, like, and getting such a successful, thing started. Like
hey,
this
you
thing
too,
looks
man.
awesome,
Like
man.
you're crushing it. Like you are a true professional. You know exactly what you're doing. Like anybody who needs credit repair, I know where I'm sending them. You could do anywhere,
Much
right? You could
appreciated.
do Long Island, New
Yeah,
York City.
wherever. Yeah, wherever. Everything's done, via Zoom. I mean, listen, if they want to meet in person, I'm more than happy to. But like, everything's done via Zoom, via email agreements, and
Gotcha.
it's nice and simple. We can have you up and running in a day.
Absolutely. All right, great. So yeah, anybody that needs credit repair, I'm sending them to you. Um, I'm gonna stop this recording now. And yeah, thanks for coming on. This was friggin' awesome.
Buddy, that
This
was
was
awesome, man. I really
hey,
enjoyed
this
that.
this was our longest one.
Oh, really?
While I don't know if you noticed, but while we were doing this, I was like, we're going over, and this so I finally paid for full Zoom.
It popped up. It popped up on my screen. I was like, oh fuck, 9 minutes left. I was like, all right, like,
I went on and I was like, all right, I'm doing it. Boom, I'm paying for it.
Well, I mean, that's the way to get you, right? Like,
Yeah, hey, whatever. I've been doing this. I usually, I was gonna do it at some point, so now was the time.